The next day, the day Summer went missing, um, pretty normal day. Um, kind of goofing off maybe at JD's expense a little because I still had no clue what had what I'd been used for. So I thought all kinds of things. Anyway, and that was the high drama, right? Uh, so and then we were just like normal. For the kids and I. Um, most days, health wise, especially at that point, were not good for me. I'd been off the thyroid meds. I'd had a really hard time running those survey lines and doing what I had to do to get all that done anyway, with no help other than my oldest. Oh, sorry. I have a cramp. Uh, whew. And, so, the kids and I were in the cabin. The doors open, the windows open, no TV or anything going. For the most part, the cabin itself was pretty empty. I had a bed in there, fish tank, that type of thing. Um, but it was actually a pretty good feeling day, so air conditioning wasn't on, anything like that. Felt pretty nice. Um, and at the time, it hadn't been, and it still wasn't, last I knew, just a few days ago, insulated or drywall up or anything. So, you could basically, and it was a different angle than the house, so sounds were a little different to it than, say, the house was. And it was a little closer to Candace's than the house. So I'm at the head of the bed, say like you were up towards your headboard, and in the middle, I was kind of in that area of the bed. My oldest was to my left, but around where, like, if you were sitting Indian style at your headboard, he was kind of to my left and down a little past where knees Indian style would be. And my daughter was towards my feet and to the left and closest to the cabin doors, which were just 2-3 feet, maybe, most, from her. And we were laughing, cutting up, sharing jokes. At that point, it wasn't even at JD's expense or anything. It was just usual us having a good time together, especially while Voldemort was not present. And we're pretty loud when together. We're talkers. It's just, they're mine. So we're kind of like, pretty happy. Always kind of worried when left to our own little devices. Just chattering like we normally do, joking, goofing off, having a great time together. And I remember there being jokes, laughter, definitely talking over one another, right? And the kids were being pretty loud. That day there hadn't been a lot of noise other than the woodcutters, with the two crews and such. They cut out, a little while before the next things happened. There were several points in the day where I'd heard noises outside, in the roadway below us, other places up and down, even with the woodcutters, and it had brought me out of the cabin to check the banks and to look down and make sure the roadway was clear and no cars were parked there and JD wasn't back doing anything crazy. And then at one point, as we get closer to the minutes that I never really saw anything that day. No cars really sitting, not much of anything every time I was brought out of the cabin. And my oldest would have to help me because, the stress from JD being there had hit pretty hard. And like I said, my body was kind of it was difficult then. As you can imagine, I know looking and seeing me talk, it looks like I'm all, whew, that is not really how it is. And even then, it was really hard. And it's been months since that. And I'm still not on thyroid meds again. And it's really difficult just to move. I'm sure you're noticing my speech is getting worse as this is, and my mouth looks different and heavier. And as it's getting later and stress is catching up from yesterday, the droop's there. You'll see this. It's the pucker muscles they had to cut through. So it'll look heavier and like my face is dragging. Anyway, so the point is that I felt pretty bad after the stress of JD and that whole drama. And my muscles and things were already cramping without my thyroid med stuff at that point. Because I was expecting radiation, and that was the first time. So at least the 6 or 8 weeks I'd been off, I think, at that point. Anyway, and have other health conditions. Right now, from the last radiation, it's pericarditis and heart problems and things. So, a little difficult. So, my oldest had helped me out of the cabin a few times that day to look and see with my PTSD hypervigilant state what was happening, and made sure nothing happened to me while I was being nosy. So, there wasn't anything really abnormal that I saw or heard until there was a point in there during the day, and it was after the tree cutters had stopped sawing, the clearers, whatever you want to call them. So somewhere around 3, they cut out, and at some point after that, I heard a car door slam. It was something like a road that kind of faces the right of way that also cuts through this property too. That splits this one in parts and goes back. There's another road that faces it that's named Simpson. Not to be confused with another one across the main road. So I hear what I feel like is a car door coming from there, and that hit me as odd. And I think we go out at that point and look around, didn't see anything. And, we end up going back in. But somewhere in that point, and I had asked for help at one point, making sure I was right on this, without being led or anything. But, we heard a car door. Just one. Never heard an engine or a car leave, even though it was quiet. We walked the bank for quite a few minutes. And it looked like one of the survey lines was down to me. So I asked him to see if somebody cut it, to see what was going on. It looked like the tires down in the parking space I referred to earlier had been moved to me at the angle I was at. And my oldest was nice enough to walk that survey line. There was a branch on it. and he removed it, so every line come back up, and then he went a little further down and was to the right, and looked, and the tires hadn't been moved. And while he was doing that, and while we were on the bank, there was a car that went up Candace's driveway. Now, the angle I was at and where he was at, I still don't know why I asked. I know that I know I know that something was wrong with it, is the reason I asked him. Because had there not been, I wouldn't have asked at all. It was something about the color, the rotation and the way it hit the driveway, because I know the sounds and stuff of Candace's cars as they go in and out, and Donnie's, and who y'all call Granny's. I know the sounds of their vehicles and the way the tires spin, and I can tell you without looking which one it is, going up or down, even when I'm inside the house or the cabin. The new Subaru, anyway, but for some reason in my head, there was a flash of red going up the driveway that was wrong. It wasn't shiny, it didn't have the gloss, it wasn't right, and the way the traction switched over for the Subaru was entirely different than whatever this was that day. The Subaru does, at that point, a 2.5 thing before it transfers over to whatever it picks up and then finally goes up. This didn't do that, and it also never completed the loop for their driveway. To pull in at the top, towards where Grandis's camper was. And it was almost like it had stopped at the basement door, which is also not where most of you all keep marking. It is not where half of, or 75% of the internet seems to think it is. So anyway, it is facing this property, and it is not very far up from the roadway. And I can tell you that the full-size Dodge truck that Baltimore had, that's 4-wheel drive, that you can pull up in front of the basement and they can't hear you inside the house. There's just something about the way the basement and the hill's shaped and the way it curves. Most of the time they can't even hear you if you're outside there. And the way the sounds on these properties work, they're all different and they all pick up different things.